Hi, I'm Liz Seeley, founder of Starryeyed Strategy, and I help you turn creativity into your greatest competitive advantage. After decades partnering with the world's best, biggest, and most beloved brands, I want to take you behind the scenes to see how the most creative leaders turn ideas into impact. Each episode features leaders from top CEOs and CMOs to founders and authors, revealing how they stay inspired to create brands that launch and last, and how you can do it too. You'll walk away with practical lessons and tools you can use, whether you're repositioning your brand, rallying your team, or planning your next big launch. So let's get started and stay starry-eyed. My guest today is Katrina Markoff, founder and CEO of Violet Flame Chocolate and the visionary chocolatier behind Vosges, two luxury chocolate brands known for blending unexpected ingredients, storytelling, and sensory discovery long before experiential food was mainstream. After building Vosges into one of the most recognizable premium chocolate brands in the world, Katrina launched Violet Flame, an even more intimate and intentional venture centered around ritual and what she calls chocolate alchemy. Katrina has been named one of the top 10 chocolatiers in the world by National Geographic, one of the top 10 most creative people in business by Fast Company, Woman Entrepreneur of the Year by Amex, and Food Artisan of the Year by Bon Appetit. One of the many things I love about Katrina is that she has spent her career building brands that are impossible to replicate, and she did it by trusting her imagination before the market told her it was a good idea. Katrina, welcome to Stay Starry-Eyed.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here with you.
I wish we had some chocolate to eat together, but
I
you
know.
could tell us all
Well,
about it.
if you come to Chicago soon, let's do a tasting.
Perfect. Yes, I'll see you next week. But
Okay.
in the meantime, before we jump into all of the deliciousness, what do you hope the brand leader listening will take away from our conversation today? What's one thing you hope they'll think differently about or try after today?
I always say that there's like a binary approach to everything. Like you have to be like 21 and 51. You have to be like a healer, intuitive, and you have to be like a trailblazer, like maverick. I think it's not like a single thing. I think it's a balance of the two extremes that you're always kind of tottering between in making decisions and just like being a leader and sometimes being a listener. And so I guess that it's not singular, it's sort of binary in a way.
Be open to possibilities.
Yeah.
I know you studied at Le Cordon Bleu and worked at some fancy companies, some really innovative culinary environments. Tell us a little bit about your career journey to date and what some of those early experiences taught you about creativity and coming up with something new.
Yeah, I would say my childhood was probably one of the biggest influences for me just because I spent a lot of time in my backyard alone and we had a lot of fruit trees and a creek and I had um I had played a lot by myself and with my pets, and I think my imagination developed at a really young age. And it became like a system, a language that I understood of like how to make decisions by what the way I played as a kid. So when I grew up in Indiana and I went to college at Vanderbilt and then went to culinary school at the Cordon Bleu and then got to work at El Bulli. And my time in France was very traditional. Like they didn't like so much creativity. And I felt like called to like bust out of that. And then I got the chance to work at El Bulli and it was such a different vibe because he was doing radical, um, unexpected transformations with food into different states of matter. And it was just completely wild. And I think that really spoke to my heart. And he said, all the answers are inside. Ferran Adria, who was the kind of the chef behind El Bulli, just use your imagination and your palate to guide you and go travel the world. And that was like super powerful and very cementing to the way my mind works and the systems I create work are valid. It was sort of like a moment of validation, like just trust your imagination. And so I think that then became when I traveled around the world, came back and started Vosges, which was very much about like travel the world through chocolate and interesting ingredients and storytelling. And yeah, that was kind of my basis.
That's wild. And for those who don't know, El Bulli is a legendary 3 Michelin-starred Spanish restaurant. How long were you there? What are the timestamps and how long did you travel?
I was, I want to say I was there for like 3 or 4 months. And then I worked in San Sebastian in the Basque Country for maybe 6 weeks, 6 or 8 weeks. And then from there, that was like the jumping off point to like go travel the world. So then I was in Italy for a little while. I had done so much in France, having gone to school there, and I knew Europe fairly well. And then I moved straight over to Asia and went to Thailand and spent a lot of time in Southeast Asia and Australia. And that was just that was just an incredible journey. So yeah, and then of course started Vosges and now Violet Flame.
That's wild. So you were able to literally taste the world. I did that when I quit my job, got married to the mountains. My husband and I traveled through Latin America for 9 months. And looking back, we're like, oh, we should have done it for longer. We should have gone to
I
Asia and the rest of
know.
it. What were your favorite, especially from a taste perspective, favorite places discovered along the way?
I
And
mean, Thailand,
Thailand?
100%. I loved it. I mean, have you been there? The
Yes.
floating markets, and that was my first stop in Asia ever in my whole life, and I think it was probably that's why I loved it so much. But I was greeted by someone that was connected to a friend of mine, and she brought me into her home and taught me how to make Thai curry. And like they had like kaffir lime trees just in their house on the back porch, and like the ingredients they had were just thrown right there. And I just remember thinking, oh my God, this is so amazing. They were living in Bangkok, a big city, and they were growing this on their little mini porch in the back. And then going to the floating markets and just the way I sort of started to understand food as like healing and medicine as well in Thailand. So that was my, I would say that was why that one was particularly powerful.
That's amazing. And did you specialize in chocolate and dessert, or were you making everything during the course of this culinary training?
Yeah, I mean, it was everything savory and sweet, but I tend to want to be in the sweet side. And I found that during that trip, at least, there was less innovation on the sweet side and more on maybe a little more on the savory side. And so that's when I knew there was like an opportunity to like do something in chocolate.
And what made you take the leap going from more of that culinary exploration into starting your own business?
I just grew up around entrepreneurs. My family's all entrepreneurs, like kind of immigrant families, starting companies, just, figuring it out, a lot of common sense strategies to growing a business. It wasn't like necessarily intimidating. It was almost like, oh, that's of course what I was going to do, just because that's all I saw. Um, and I didn't think I needed a degree to do it. So I just did, did it.
That's brilliant. Well, then you built Vosges into one of the most recognizable luxury chocolate brands in the world. Like I said before, a lot of people knew what immersive experiences were or could at least verbalize it. Looking back, what helped you create something distinctive like that? And obviously, your world tour helps.
Um, I think it's kind of a mix of my childhood and like what I saw as beautiful in the world when I was younger. And my mom taught me a lot about like really finely crafted things, whether because she loved antiques and she loved crystal and she loved silver and all of those things, but she didn't like love them necessarily to have lots of parties, but she just appreciated craft so much that I think I grew up believing that if you're going to make something really like infuse it with something really like do the best work, something about connecting with your heart, head, and hand to make something by hand that stands apart when you're like, it's handmade. Like you can almost feel that. And I think I got that message from my mom.
It's so sweet. Tell us a little bit about when we'll talk about both brands, but how that began. How did you go about the brand building process from the insights and the spark that inspired it to what ended up being Vosges?
Yeah, I mean, I was traveling and I fell in love every day, every minute. I guess I had never seen anything that I had seen as a young person, and traveling throughout Southeast Asia, Australia, Europe by myself with just one friend. It was like flying for the first time without like your instructor in the sidecar or something, because you were like navigating the world by yourself, and there was something really renegade and powerful about um measuring your own risk as you're traveling and like where you're going to go. And there wasn't a set agenda. We just kind of kept going east, and it was such an adventure. And I wish for everyone to do something like that in their life. Tends to be like that people normally do that when they're really young and they don't have anything to lose, and they do it less when they're older and have more to lose, right? Because we kind of hold on to these material things. But um, it was just, incredible. And then I got back to the States and I was in love with so many things, but I didn't want to be a chef in a restaurant and I didn't want to necessarily just write a cookbook. And I felt like I needed to tell stories about these things I fell in love with. And it usually was the people, the people, the stories, the traditions. And so I used chocolate as a medium for talking about those stories. And it was very external, and like go out of yourself, find something, bring it back and have it influence yourself. Whereas with Violet Flame, it's very different. It's very like inner work, like how do the senses, when you have beautiful, incredible food and chocolate, how can the senses be a bridge into intuition and self connection? And so that you are reminded of who you really are and what you're meant to do. And often we kind of live out, I think, other people's visions of ourselves. And this is something I think that I'm hoping, this sort of ritual of tasting chocolate in a way that calms the nervous system and then kind of gets you really out of your head and into your body so you remember who you are.
Love it. Well, tell us about the transition then. I've told you before, Katrina, you remind me of Kathleen King and Tate's Bakery. Having one company, you can tell us how that all went down, but then like Phoenix rising from the ashes, building one that's even better.
Yeah, like it's just such a crazy story. It's hard to capture it in words with a short period of time. Um, but yeah, I think essentially I had a series of really wildly life-changing events that occurred in my life with my stepdad, my husband who got incredibly sick and ended up, losing his limbs in a terrible sepsis experience. Um, and then I had a couple deals a transaction I was working on with Vosges fell apart. And then my husband wanted to get divorced after that, which was like very shocking. And then went in through COVID, and that was really tough because of 2019. My husband got sick in 2020, COVID, and then came out like really strong after that. And then had um, some internal things that happened where someone uh I don't know how to say like um did something they shouldn't have done, and it kind of triggered a default, and we needed to get a new investor to take out the bank, and we had this huge $10 million project that was just onboarding, and it was terrible timing. So I brought in an investor and my husband who I was divorcing to become the investors to kind of come in, and it ended up that they basically fired me. They got the company and fired me. And it was it has been so challenging to have that happen, obviously, because I was kind of like the person that supported the family, and like it's just kind of a crazy situation. And so a lot came with that, a lot of loss of material things, but also just like resetting of like what is going on with me, like, and I realized, I think that I probably needed to make some kind of a move a while ago on a few topics, and I didn't. And I always say like the universe comes in hard and heavy when you don't listen and you don't make those moves, because moves are sometimes uncomfortable, right? It's change. And so I basically lost everything materially. and And then this baby that like Vosges was my baby, so, like, it's such a unique experience. But then when I got into creativity, which is one of the greatest healers, I think it is absolutely brilliant, and it is the path, for me at least, to kind of transition out of like the mind being really worried about the situation and like fear like overtaking my whole life, or the way I move through it now, and into like, okay, what do I really want to do? And then I had always been a little more quiet about like how much I believed in the energetics of food and the consciousness transfer of that happens when someone cooks for you, like for you, or when they grow plants in their garden, how much they love the plants. And that when you taste a tomato from someone's backyard, why is it so different? Yes, like it's picked at its peak ripeness, but there's also something else. I really believe that there's something else in that. And so I started to think, that's what I want to do next is really work with that, but not just to eat and ogle over something beautiful, but like to really have an inner experience. And I always related like going to incredible fine dining experiences. And it didn't have to just be that, but like where you are so quiet and still, and then you take a bite of something, how powerful that taste can be if it's excellent. So that's what kind of got me into like, okay, I only want to work with ingredients of this caliber. I want to touch them myself. I want this to be even like be very bespoke in that way. And I want to create ritual with it because ritual is proven to lower blood pressure, improve decision making, improve focus, and all the fancy Ivy League schools have done studies on that because it's just such an interesting thing. What is it about slowing down to be sharper, to be more
Yes.
discerning, and so that's all integrated into this Cacao Spiritus Club, which is basically what I'm doing at Violet Flame. There's a club that comes out every month, and every month it's completely new. Like, I'm getting ingredients, like, that are just picked and, like, I know the hands, and these are, like, the top grades, and this is from a geographical area that's been doing it for centuries like this, and they, they only harvest them every 2 years because they wanna preserve the soil, and all of that is going into this culmination of this experience within, the club.
It's amazing. Well, I'm
Thanks.
sorry all of that happened. And like I said, it reminds me a little bit of like Kathleen, who had this beautiful bake shop, had partners come in, took the company, and had to just rebuild all together to make it even better and stronger and just a more powerful brand than it had been, which is
It is such an inspiring story. I know her story, and I can't believe it, except for the fact that I'm kind of trying to live it, I guess, but I'm a little behind her. But
you're
yeah.
doing all right. You're doing all right. Especially you have two kids and your Vosges baby. Did that take a little while to let it go to part, or were you right away thinking I'm gonna rebuild?
Uh, I was in shock, true shock. It was completely wow, wow, wow. And then I stunned for a little bit, but an entrepreneur never stops doing what they do, building a new company. It's just what we know how to do. It's not the only thing we know how to do, but it's like I can't not do that. I that's just how I understand because I'm so passionate about shaping something, this experience that will never be perfect, that will never be done. But like I don't know that I could do that if I worked for anyone else. I would be a terrible employee for sure. It's just like, this is all that I know how this is like what my DNA is, I guess. Yeah.
Yes, and I love what you said about creativity as the healing process, because that creative process, it's hard and it's messy, but you end up
Yeah.
better because of it.
It's the messiness, I think, that stops a lot of people because it is incredibly messy. Yes. Yeah. As you
Well, and
know.
Violet Flame, with that in mind, feels a lot different than the traditional confectionery brands of the world. You shared with us a little bit about that inspiration. What did you set out to create that would have been similar and different compared with Vosges? Especially how big was Vosges when you left it, when you parted?
I mean, it was like 20 million when they yeah, I got it.
Mhm. I don't wanna jinx them, but, because it is your baby, it maybe should live on, you tell me, but, that first Kathleen bake shop did not last, but Tate's is like a billion-dollar brand.
Well, let's just
So,
say, what
yeah.
I have learned in all of this process is that I'm really trying to focus on creating what I want to do instead of like I getting retaliation or like I don't even care what I don't even look at Vogue. I don't even know what it's doing. I can't look at it. It makes me feel like, but I also don't that's not my focus is not on that. My focus is on like what am I doing? How am I doing it better? I'm always about better, and I think that's why when I need to change my state, I love to watch, like, Instagram videos on, like, amazing athlete stories because it's such a parallel for life and entrepreneurship and blocks and, like, how do you keep going and not and, like, remember who you are. Now they're in, like, perfect shape and they're young and all that, so it's, like, harder when you're older and you're like, I don't look the same. I don't have the same I have 2 kids. I like it's even harder, so you really have to gear up more in your midlife to do this. It's not for the faint of heart, but it's so rewarding to have, like, little baby wins, like they all so
That's right. And it's not about comparing yourself to others. It's about comparing yourself to who you were before, as long as you're improving day by day and the brand is
Yeah.
growing.
Yeah, I like that.
Tell us about the chocolate alchemy. What does the phrase mean and how does it shape the way you think? Especially after what you've been through, it makes a lot of sense to me that you would dream up these sensorial experiences that, like you said, slow you down and calm your nervous system. That makes perfect sense. How did you create that next?
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of like a confectionery that like is speaking to neuroscience. And so alchemy is both science and the pursuit of love and understanding love and in the way that we should evolve as humans and also how the body works and everything is symbiotic to each other. Like you can't have light without shadow. And so I try not to think of the experience as bad, although often I want to say it's a rape and pillage because it felt like that. But like death is a part of renewal and creativity. So I lean into that understanding of it so that I don't get so like emotionally but I found that I had to regulate my mental state all day long. I still do, and so, like, I started, like, researching a lot on, like, vagus nerve and vagal tone and how important it is to be in that state, to be creative and take risk, and also amplify the sensory system, which is so fantastic to disrupt thought, so, like, when something feels really amazing or smells and so I think I started doing a lot of that for myself, and then I decided, okay, I'm gonna make this as my medicine. This is my medicine, so I'll share it with everyone else too. And so it's very deep into those two camps of like neuroscience and the finest chocolate ingredients, the sort of harmonics of the history of cacao too, being that that was considered the way they would connect to the gods, it was like so there's just so much magic in cacao, and I wanted to go deeper into that, and though it's a great gift too, it's also an amazing instrument to work with individually.
Yeah, for you or for giving to other people. What's the
Mhm.
new product development process like now? And are you still sourcing ingredients from all over the world? Do you have favorite places it comes from?
Yeah, I'm basically linking up like the um the seasonality, so like what's growing in May, where's the best where's the best. I then bring it in from India or Colombia or whatever it is. And then I make these chocolates on like Monday and I ship them on Tuesday. And like it is so fresh because I'm doing it like that. And then with the club every month, there's a theme that connects also to the season, to the lunar calendar, and then there's something that you have to do like to kind of ready yourself to like receive the chocolate and then hopefully receive the messages that come with being still and being in this moment. But that's where that's where all the innovation is, and that's just every month it's different, but you have to be in the club to get it because I don't but you can buy just one and not do the other months or whatever, but that's where it's at.
That's so cool, which is why it makes sense that you would have these immersive tasting sessions. Do you guide those or do you have like a
Yeah.
instructional? How does it work?
So we print there's like 4 to 6 pages that we print on this beautiful recycled textile paper. It's all from like old clothing and they make it in this gorgeous, gorgeous paper. also comes from India. And then we also do a guided audio. So with a little bit of background music, it's almost like it's a lot of people say it's very relaxing. Like you it's a it's basically starts telling stories. I start telling stories about these ingredients, where they came from, what the farm was, and then I guide them into how to like taste the chocolate and then how to have a moment to like get in bridge into the intuitive message, like, then so that they can hopefully capture that message, which if you start to keep track of those messages, they start to make sense. It's kinda interesting to watch how they unfold. And then there's 30 chocolates in the box, and so they keep them maybe for every day, or they do 2 a day, or however they wanna do it, keep it refrigerated in between, and yeah, and so it's basically a month's worth of work and how to like build like intuitive muscle for better discernment and be a Jedi, basically. Yeah.
Exactly. How are those messages received? Are they images or what happens exactly?
It's a guided audio with some visual components. But oh, you mean how do you get like
Yeah.
a download?
Well, no, once you're going through this exercise, this immersive exercise, and then, like you said, you will open up to these messages. In what form do they come? It reminds
So
me a bit of breath work or other
I
things.
I think everybody has a different. So like um well, actually, I just sort of like you have to remember your imagination isn't fantasy, it's actually a tool. So once you like stop judging it, it becomes a tool. When you judge it, it becomes fantasy. So it's like, how do you get to that state? Well, like, it's hard to tell you other than saying some of the most powerful things is the sensory system. So like music is like instant. Like I think music is one of the most powerful change your state. So if you listen to a song, you might be able to get a message easily because you're not like critically thinking, right? Um, I think taste, melt the way chocolate goes from solid to liquid in your mouth and melts. That moment, especially when it's amazing and you just are taking this first bite, is very easy to kind of get messages. I always say once you take the first bite and you've tasted the chocolate, imagine tasting it a second time. It's not in your mouth, but you're using your imagination. And like think of the place, think of the hands, think about who touched it, like start painting that story, and then like see if anything visits. And it's just a practice like that you start to be able to pick up these messages. It's like your higher self talking to you, but you have to start believing it. So that's why everyone, when you first join, you get a journal and you're supposed to write all of the nudges that come in throughout the day. You know, the kind that like you're driving and all of a sudden something comes in, you're like, oh, but you dismiss it a lot, right? Because it's just quiet. So
I
it's
feel
about
like in
cap.
this day and age, especially with AI taking over the world, this is needed more than ever. who, who,
Yeah.
who, for the most part, is the customer who you have in mind? I know a lot of it is sold in boutique places in Chicago and LA. Who is that target consumer for Violet Flame?
That's where I need maybe your help.
Yeah, we'll work on that.
I don't know. Um, I think it's anyone who is looking. I'm surprised at how many men we have, to be honest. I really am. I love that. But I think it's anyone who's looking for like growth in, and I think a lot of people are looking for like, growth in health in regards to like your thoughts rule your life. So how can you like have more moments in the day that are beautiful? Because they can slow you down to remember like what is actually really important. And by the way,
Mhm.
it's not money. It's like the experience of things, right? It's like being able to like appreciate that you grew that plant when it was sick and now it's huge. Like I love my plants. Um, things like that I think are, moments to stop and like take a moment of gratitude or whatever. But like to take the chocolate, I think everybody could use that. So I don't really know what the demo is. Like, I guess somebody who's really into the idea of improving their their life by like following their heart and getting to know what that is so they know where to go.
Well, this sounds like a much more pleasant experience. I mentioned it reminds me a little bit of breath work where you're guided through a bit of meditation. When I did this, I showed up and I was like, get your Kleenex. I was like, what do you mean? Am I going to cry? Are you going to cry? Everybody, breathes. No, nothing else about it, drinking water before. And then you do this breath work. And I had visions. It helps you like tap into, I guess, your biggest fears of. So my vision was my kids coming up to me. I'm working away at my standing desk and they're growing before my eyes. And sure enough, I was bawling by the end. And I was like, oh, I need to really slow down and appreciate the passage of time. Isn't
Wow, that's amazing.
that crazy? And people saw all kinds of
Wow.
wild things in breath work. I mean, my husband had a much nicer vision of like God connecting us all, and another lady had seen, her baby who she lost, and all these things. But I would much rather have the violet flame like present, reconnecting with my self experience.
No, that is so awesome. You didn't even need to do drugs to get that information.
Exactly, right?
That's like really powerful stuff. That's what I'm saying. The body already has all that. Like I know
Yes.
people like to make it easier, numb out, do drugs and do the things and like
That's right.
no judgment, but like there's ways to do it. And then when you do it on your own, like you just did, like you know how powerful that is. Like that is incredible. Like
Well,
that's basically like you just did like a psilocybin trip because you just met your fear and then you were like, okay, got the message.
yeah,
Done.
and I did things about it. I've made changes. I was really sad I didn't have a bucket bike to take my kids around in a bike, so I have a cargo bike to, enjoy and have those traditions again. But I would much rather eat chocolate and have that same, connecting experience. And yeah, skip the shrooms, skip the whatever else, peyote,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
nuts and things. Let's just eat Violet Flame. I love where this is
Oh,
going.
thank you. I love that.
Uh,
Thanks for sharing that. That's interesting. What was your breath work? Like how long did you do like what was it like your breath work? Like was it for like a long period of time you were doing it?
no, no, just once, and I was like, I'm never doing that again. I'm just gonna eat
Like
chocolate now.
once like how long? Like for
Oh,
5
for like an
minutes?
hour. It was like an hour
Hour,
and
hour. I was gonna say you had to do a lot to get there, I'm
20
sure,
minutes or
because
something to get these,
yeah.
amazing visions. And then I was like, I don't need to do that. Maybe like a decade, I'll try it again.
I know. It's like that's the thing is like why do we have to be it gets to the point where you have to be uncomfortable to get the message, which is the
That's right.
point is like because you're not picking up on the other subtle little things that you're getting, so then you have to wait for a big explosion, which doesn't have to be.
That's
Just
right.
have to do it like day by yeah.
Just slow
So
down and taste your chocolates. What has been your favorite flavor that you've made so far? I know I'm oversimplifying because there's complex combinations and recipes, but what is your favorite creation so far?
um uh, there is this it's so hard to say, but I will say there are a couple of farms that I'm obsessed with that I think do some magic in the soil, but one of them is this actually it's in the Peru in the Andes Mountains and they create this milk based chocolate from cows that are found by women riding horses and then they're
Mhm.
milked and it's like and then they bring that milk and they roller dry it in like a low temperature and so it retains all the qualities of what the cows have been eating that have come into and it's like tastes like tonka and coconut and dried coconut and banana and I make this truffle called Seven and it's got like a little baby amount of organic banana but all the other notes are coming from this milk that these cows and these women like this exchange and I love that one, 7, and then the other one that I love is, I've been working with sea buckthorn berries, which is like a very tart, very high vitamin C fruit that Alexander the Great used to give to his horses and his troops because it has so much vitamin C that they realized it was so good for the immune system, and it made the horses' coats very shiny. And so I use that anytime I need something tart, and I have this beautiful raspberries that are from a women-led farm in the north of France, which is just absolutely exquisite, better than any other nearby farm, and I add sea buckthorn berry to it to bring it tart, and geranium from Egypt, and I love that was called, Alexander. So,
Mm.
there are
Of course it
many,
is.
but
You're still storytelling, and it sounds like a lot of these are inspired by that key hero ingredient. How are you finding these? How are you sourcing them?
I just it's kinda like, opening a book and then whatever you're drawn to, like, that's the word for you. It's
Mm.
like that. Like, I just somehow stumble upon it. I have an idea, I get a download, I get some idea, and then and every time I say to myself, "I am not gonna just use any mango," and there are a lot of varietals of mango. So, I'm going to pick the best one. So, I'm flying them all in from all over the world, India and, Colombia, and I'm trying them and being like, "Okay, this is the one I'm working with." And because we have a very limited amount of club memberships. Like I can do that. I can make it really special. And I love that part. That's what is really, I'm so happy to be able to do that.
That's amazing. Do you have global scouts sniffing these out, or do you just say, like, I'm looking
No,
for
I
this, and
don't.
it
It
reads it?
has because it's like I'm all about the signs, so it has to come to me. I
Okay,
can't go to a scout. I need to like it's very personal. It's like I really want to make the chocolate.
that makes sense. How do you stay creative day to day? How do you stay open to the possibilities for things to come to you?
That's the whole regulating of your nervous system, to be honest with you. That is the only way. And it takes a lot of work because I have a little bit of a self-sabotage in me where I want to like make myself suffer. I don't know why. I am trying to get that out of me, but like you have to manage it because it can be overwhelming when you have like I've had so much and I'm still in the middle of so much. So I think, having rituals, as many of them as you can, whether that's journaling at this hour, having a coffee, drinking cacao, having tea, but then like drink your tea in your way where you're like, having it with this thing at this time and you're doing this moment and you're smelling and you're just taking this in. I think things like that make life slower for one and more beautiful for two and less worrisome for three.
Well, Katrina, I will ask you a few Starry-Eyed Sparks lightning round questions. What is the best or most inspiring book you've read? That could be lately or of all time.
A book called Coction just came out.
What's that about?
It's basically about the history of alchemy from the very beginning and neuroscience. So it's like a perfect between both. So it's great.
Oh,
If you
that's
want.
ideal for you. You could have written that. What about The Alchemist? Is that another of your
It's
faves?
I do really like that a lot too. Yeah, I
Just
do.
a brand you admire that's not your own?
I do love Ula Johnson, I must say. I just love her fashion. But I do love Flamingo Estate too.
Ooh, good one.
Yeah.
Word that describes how you want to lead in the next year.
Really bravely. I would say very bravely.
How about a new thing you'd like to try?
Writing a book.
Ooh, and what's yours gonna be about?
Feeling your way in the dark.
Brilliant. How about your go-to walk-on or pump-up song? Like you said, music has the power to change
Yeah,
everything.
everything. Right now I'm really into Florence and the Machine album.
Favorite cocktail or mocktail?
I love toffee and Scotch whiskey.
Ooh. And what about your favorite chocolate? I know it was like asking you to pick a favorite son.
I mean, I will say, like, the toffee is amazing for comfort food if you, like, want just, like oh my it's really the best toffee I've ever had. Um, but the best chocolate that the chocolate that I need is my favorite chocolate that I want, and it just depends on my mood, so that's why this question is really always so hard for me.
It just depends.
Um, it just depends on my mood, so I guess I'll say the Alexander for now.
Perfect. And what's one mindset or action you'd encourage fellow leaders to try or do differently after listening to today?
I would say, like, look for the paradigm shift.
Going back to how we first began, without the light and the shadows, without the bad, you can't appreciate the good.
Exactly. That is exactly it. And it's there everything's there for a reason. So don't see it as like bad and good. Like see it as something else. Like what's
An
it supposed to
opportunity.
yeah, what's it gonna teach you? Mhm.
Yes. And who's a creative leader you admire and think we should invite next to Stay Starry-Eyed?
I'd love for you to have Erica Badu.
Who's Erica?
Oh, she's an amazing singer-songwriter, but she's a doula. She's just I don't know. She's in everything, but she is a philosopher. Like she's a really um she's incredible, and she was one of my favorite artists, and then she didn't even get big until she was in her 50s. Like, she was known, but it was, like, underground known, and then she became huge.
Wow. Okay. Perfect. Well, Katrina, thanks again for sharing your story, for sharing your chocolate with us. Go to violetflame.com and order, sorry,
I like
go
chocolate,
to
yeah.
violetflamechocolate.com and order yours. And in the meantime, I will see you in Chicago next week.
Alright. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Stay Starry-Eyed podcast. I hope today's conversation sparked new ideas, strategies, and tools you can use to move your brand and business forward. If you enjoyed this episode, here's how you can help share it with your fellow brand leaders who need it most. Hit follow, share it with a friend, and please leave us 5 stars or a quick review. You know we love all the stars. You can also find show notes, resources, and additional inspiration at starryeyedstrategy.com. Until next time, stay starry-eyed.